Thank you so much once again for having me. My name is Ndiilokelwa Nthengwe, or you can call me Ndilo for short. I'm an intersectional gender justice activist, and I'm also an author of this book. And I suppose that my journey for writing started in high school, but it's never really been formalized into a structure like this. And also I think the book came at a time where I was very heavily involved with activism in Namibia, particularly for sexual, gender and sex minorities in the country, for women and adolescent girls, and for SGBV victims and survivors. And so the book really just coalesces everything within the intersectional movement, and at the same time also is a backdrop of my own childhood and then coming into my adulthood. I think it's the chronicles that that depict my life from when I started out, I think, within the National Theatre of Namibia, and now coming into national politics and identity politics. And so I think really it just summarizes all the many obstacles that I've been through in the last 2 years since I've joined the activism movement, but also brings in many personal perspectives from my upbringing and my internalized understanding of my non-binary identity, my sexual identity, my nationalist identity. And I suppose that this book is really for every queer individual, and by queer it's not necessarily associated to sexual identity, but just queerness in how we shift our thinking from much more narrow-minded, very bigotry or bigoted understanding of issues to a more progressive lens, and that this queerness is imbued and is also represented through the work that I've published. And so it's really that everyone does associate themselves with the work, and at some point I hope that it does fuel them also with the love that I propose in the book, because it's titled The Chronicles of a Non-Binary Black Lesbian Namibian in Love. It's quite heavy, but it's intentional, right? Because I am unpacking a lot of intersectional issues, race issues, especially sexual identity issues. We know in the country that we are still really, fighting for the right to love and the right to exist as a community. And on top of that is really just what love looks like in the framework of activism, and how we can all also embrace love through protesting it in our streets and to the government, with the president, with ministers, and also within our own institutions. And I think this book would be then the first start, because there is an extension of a different book that's coming out this year again. This one will particularly be the ode to modern day activism in Namibia, where I really touch on the landscape, the sphere. What does activism look like right now, the advent of social media, digital media, and also us as young youth that are also dominating discourse online and offline, where discourse has also been democratized and we have more access to parliamentarians or politicians who otherwise would have been isolated if they weren't on Twitter, for example. So I think, this book is just a labor of love, and I'm really hoping that people could buy and order it, because the copies have run out. The first, I think the time that it was announced, the first week they already ran out. So at the launch itself, we basically just sold copies and gave out copies of people that already pre-ordered. And we will be doing a reprint in the coming months when the new book comes out as well. So there will be copies. It is also going to be available at Exclusive Books Namibia and Book Den Namibia.